Welcome in, everybody. A little bit of a bonus edition, best of edition of the AREN Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, AREN Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. I hope everybody's enjoying a Memorial Day weekend. I hope everybody's relaxing, chilling, having a good time. Here's the bottom line, is that I know many of you are traveling, but I also know that many of you are at home looking for something to talk about, something to listen to. And so what we've done this weekend is a couple best of editions of the AREN Torres Pod. On Friday, if you were on the YouTube channel, podcast feed, whatever, you know that we basically did a best of Kentucky Portal Edition. Who did they add? We just went back and replayed the clips and the stuff that we've done throughout the spring talking Kentucky. Today, we're going to do the same with UConn. Now, UConn's offseason was a little bit different. This one will be much shorter because basically they land a major commitment in Silas Demery early back on April 3rd. And then really it was about retention, highlighted, of course, by the last major piece that they added, which was Alex Karaban, who announced right at the deadline to enter the NBA draft that he was, in fact, not entering the NBA draft and coming back. So this is a best of edition. These are clips from throughout the spring. It is worth noting a couple things. One, these are in chronological order, okay? So first of all, you'll hear Silas Demery, his commitment on April 3rd. Then you'll hear me talk about, is Torres coming back? Is Alex Karaban coming back? What does that mean? And so I only bring it up because what that says to me is that there's going to be points where we kind of overlap stuff, right? We're doing all of this in real time. And so when Silas Demery committed, we didn't know that Alex Karaban was coming back. We didn't know that Torres was coming back. And even when Alex Karaban came back, we didn't yet know that there were going to be a couple extra additions as well, kind of role pieces, bench player type pieces. So the bottom line is just understand this was recorded in real time. Stuff changed, but I think you'll enjoy the extra content. Anyway, before we get started, a couple quick reminders. One, make sure you're subscribed to the AREN Torres Pod YouTube channel, closing in on 57,000 subscribers. Cannot thank you all enough for your support. By the way, should mention, if you're a UConn fan listening to this, if you're a fan of another school listening to this, also last Wednesday, we had AJ DeBonsa on the podcast. AJ DeBonsa, of course, the #1 high school player in America. We flew out to Provo, interviewed, spoke with him. And I just bring it up because I don't think you need to be you don't have to be a BYU fan to enjoy the interview. So go back, check it out. AJ DeBonsa was unbelievable. Great kid. He talked about everything, growing up in Boston, why he chose BYU, what's the truth about all the NIL stuff. Just bring it up because I do think you'll enjoy it. If you missed it, make sure to check it out. Finally, before we get to the best of UConn's portal offseason, do want to thank our friends, do want to thank our partners, do want to thank Collie Puffs and ColliePuffs.com. Okay, so family-owned company, not far from where I live. I told you their story many times, okay? But Joey is the founder of the company, dad, parent, whatever. He was sitting on the couch one day. He said, I need a snack that is healthy but delicious. I need something my children are going to like, that I'm going to like. So he decided to start Collie Puffs. Collie Puffs is a family-owned company, but it is the new age health food snack. Get rid of the crap in your grocery aisle. You don't want Doritos. You don't want Fritos. They're gross. They're bad for you. It's Memorial Day weekend. You've either been to the pool or are about to get to the pool, maybe the beach, maybe the lake, maybe whatever. You need a snack that is healthy but delicious. Collie Puffs and ColliePuffs.com. For more information, you can search ColliePuffs.com. That's CAULIPUFFS.com, ColliePuffs.com. You can also search Amazon.com as well. Just go on Amazon.com, search Collie Puffs. You will find them there. Thank you for your support, Collie Puffs and ColliePuffs.com. With that said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the best of portal season edition, UConn style. That's coming up next. Start hearing buzz that Silas Demery Jr., guard from Georgia, was going to commit to UConn. Crystal ball from Travis Branham. Crystal ball from On3. I want to say it was maybe Joe Tipton, whatever. Maybe it was Joe Tipton. Maybe it was Pete Nakos, whatever. But talking to my UConn people, it felt like it was coming. I was actually going to sneak away during media availability to pre-record a segment about Silas Demery committing. Didn't get to do it. He commits during media availability. So let's go ahead and talk about it now, because I will tell you this. Silas Demery, I believe, may have been the best lead guard available in the country. Commits to UConn. Huge commitment at a position of need. And we got to talk about this kid, okay? So first of all, And I mentioned this the other day because we talked about him, I think, when Pope went to visit him, that, Kentucky had an in-home visit with him. I said with Georgia, it was so interesting because Georgia, you kind of realize early, they might be better than you think. So you turn them on, and they have Asa Newell, who I don't know if he's even declared yet, but he's going to be a first-round pick. I really actually liked him a lot. And you're tuning in thinking you're going to talk about Asa Newell, whatever. And then you see the Silas Demery kid. You're like, who is this kid? 6'5", gets to the rim, finishes at the rim, good three-point shooter. He kind of had a little bit of everything. And so you never want to speculate or project who's going to enter the portal, especially, by the way, at an SEC school. It's not like Georgia can't afford to keep him. But when he entered the portal, I sat there and said, that kid is one of the best players in the portal. And I think it was reflected with who recruited him. I mentioned it a minute ago, but Kentucky had an in-home visit with him over the weekend. I bring it up because North Carolina, NC State, Will Wade, remember now, is at NC State, desperately wanted this kid. And so over the course of the last couple days, he visits St. John's. He visits UConn on Tuesday. But as I said, Carolina wanted him. Kentucky wanted him. St. John's wanted him. I know BYU wanted him badly. But instead, the UConn Huskies get him. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a commitment it is for them. First of all, like I said, 6'5" guard. I mean, there just aren't a lot of guys like this in college basketball. 6'5", can get to the rim, can finish at the rim, whatever. Great three-point shooter. There's a reason everybody wanted him. By the way, should mention, make sure you're following our CBB Transfers Twitter and Instagram page. Also, Torres on UConn. Also, if you're a Husky fan, remember, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. If you're going to the Final Four, we got the women's Final Four in Tampa. If you're a UConn fan watching this, you're going. Get $20 off your first purchase. Use SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. So, UConn ladies are playing well. The UConn men get Silas Demery. And what I would say is, first of all, I thought he was the best lead guard in the portal. Again, guys are coming off the board so fast. Donovan Dent's probably a little bit more accomplished. Silas Demery's a little bit of a different player. But what stands out to me specifically about him and specifically about UConn is pretty straightforward. This is the guy that UConn desperately needed, okay? After the season ended, I did a segment on the AREN Torres Pod YouTube channel, and really it was on the podcast when they lost to Florida in the NCAA tournament. And I did a segment I did a tweet about what is the biggest need in the portal. And I had a lot of responses, probably 50-plus responses. And the number one response I got was, Torres, we need a big guy, we need a big guard. We need our next Tristan Newton. Tristan Newton, for people who forget, was the Final Four most outstanding player a year ago, two-time starter on a national championship team in 2023 and 2024, second-round pick of the Indiana Pacers, but 6'5", could get to his spots. By the way, people don't know this. He set the record for triple-doubles at UConn. You know how good you have to be to set the record for triple-doubles at UConn? And so UConn needed that guy in this portal cycle because if you watched them this year, I thought that they were actually in pretty good shape in a lot of places. Solo ball at the 2. I know Alex Karaban was up and down, but we know what he provided, 6'9", 6'10" on the wing. Liam McNeely, this past year, what he provided on the wing. Terrace Reed and Samson Johnson weren't always perfect, but they were good. The one thing you didn't have was that big guard that could just beat teams up. You had Hassan Diarra, who I love to death. I would never say a bad thing about Hassan Diarra, but he's 6 foot tall. He's playing on one knee. His knee's busted up. He's got tendonitis. And then Aiden Mahaney. It's not a knock. Aiden he did the best that he could, but he's a 6'1", 6'2" guy. Can't beat people off the dribble. He's a spot-up shooter. Very limited in what he could do. And so I only bring it up. It was so obvious that I remember tweeting it during Maui. Remember when they went 0-3 in Maui? I was tweeting, UConn needs that big guard, and they get him with Silas Demery. And so now it's going to be fascinating to see what they do the rest of this portal cycle because they really actually don't need that much. I know it was a disappointing year, but based on what's coming in the freshman class, what's coming back, I don't think UConn's that far off from actually being really good next year. Put the ball in Silas Demery's hands, let him make plays, but think about who's going to be around him. Solo ball, Tuesday night, announces he's coming back. I almost wonder if they push back Silas Demery to give Solo Ball kind of that window where we can all celebrate him coming back. And so now you get Silas Demery as the dead period starts. I think we talked about it to lead the show, but remember, with the Final Four starting, it's a dead period in recruiting. No visits for kids. Coaches aren't supposed to contact. I'm sure some of them are going to be, but no portal recruiting for the next 4, 5, 6 days while we play this Final Four. And criticize the NCAA for whatever, but good for them. Focus on the games. So I only bring it up because now UConn has some real momentum going into this dead period. You have Solo Ball announces he's coming back. Jalen Stewart last weekend announces he's coming back. Every UConn fan knows we're all fans of Jalen Stewart. We've seen him do stuff. We believe, I think most of UConn Nation believes, this kid has a chance to truly be a difference maker as he evolves in that program. Terrace Reed, that's the big one. By the way, I should mention before we get to Terrace Reed, the 4-man freshman class could be 4 contributors, 3 McDonald's All-Americans. Braylon Mullins, one of the best pure scorers in this class from Indiana, part of that team. You also have Eric Ryby, big man. You have Darius Adams, who I think is a year away from taking over the mantle of Silas Demery. If Silas Demery plays well, I don't know that he's an NBA guy just yet, but you have that next big guard in the wings, okay? And so I just bring it up because UConn, in my opinion, is not that far off. The big thing now, you got to get Terrace Reed back. There's been rumors for weeks that he would consider entering the portal. My buddy Mark Zanetto, you all know Mark, Big East Energy, does an unbelievable job covering UConn. I've actually talked to Mark a couple times, but I haven't seen his updates. But I think he thought early on that Terrace Reed would enter the portal. As of right now, we're recording here at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Terrace Reed has not entered the portal. So I just bring it up to very simply say, I think you get Terrace Reed back, top 10 team again, and they're right there with St. John's as the best team in the Big East. I would probably give the edge to them over St. John's, depending on what happens these next few weeks. But I like this fit. And it's not just that he's a good player. He is the exact player that you need. By the way, on our Torres on UConn page, I put out the tweet. A lot of people from the UConn community shared it, liked it. I think everybody realized just how important this kid was for the Huskies. Okay. So first of all, a couple things with UConn. One, we really haven't talked a ton about UConn over the course of the offseason. They, to me, have been a lot like BYU, a lot like Arkansas. They were a team that was never going to be defined by bringing in 5, 6, 7 players in the transfer portal. That's not what this offseason was about for them. It was about retention. It was about rebuilding off of a good but not great season, a season that is not the standard of UConn basketball. And largely they did that. Terrace Reed, starting center next year, is coming back. Solo Ball, second team All Big East, coming back. 3 of the 4 recruits, I should say, that signed in the fall are coming in. But I bring it up because there was one piece that was kind of the glue that was going to hold it all together. If UConn was going to reach the potential of what they could be in 2025, 2026, they needed Alex Karaban back. 3-year starter, 2-time national champion, 14 points per game this season. Well, I bring it up. NBA draft deadline was, how about this? It was Saturday night, okay? Saturday at midnight was the NBA draft deadline. We get no word on him all day Sunday. Did the show Sunday night. There was no word. Well, it's coming Monday for sure, right? No, not exactly. Tuesday morning, UConn officially announces Alex Karaban will return for his final season at UConn, his 4th as a starter, his 5th in the program, to which I just say, get ready, people, because UConn is very much back in the title mix. This is huge news for not only UConn, but Big East basketball and college basketball as a whole coming into 2025, 2026. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Karaban, very interesting player. As I said, was a starter on the 2 national championship teams in 2023, 2024, 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024. I remember even this year, Sean Miller made some comment about he's one of the greatest winners that we've ever had in college basketball. And so he's been part of this program. He's been part of the DNA. Remember, after the season, when UConn lost to Florida in the second round of the NCAA tournament, Dan Hurley said this program changed when Alex Karaban was put into the starting lineup and when he came here and when he got eligible and all that stuff. Averaged 14 per game this year. What I would say, because I know non-UConn fans are going to say it, I'll say it before you get there. It was, I don't know about a disappointing season, but I don't think even Alex Karaban lived up to the standards that he was expecting coming into this year. Remember, last year, he was one of the big names at the NBA draft deadline that took until the final days of the NBA draft deadline to decide that he was coming back to college basketball. I think if he had stayed in the NBA draft last year, coming off the second national championship, there's a chance he goes late first round. He certainly goes early in the second round. And so I bring it up because average 14 per game this year, but it was a little bit of a disappointing year. 3-point percentage did dip. There were struggles in the middle of the year. Now, part of it was he had a concussion early in the year. I was told that maybe it lingered a little bit as the season wore on. But at the same time, it was a little bit disappointing. He didn't live up to expectations. So that was I got two things when I put out a tweet saying that he was coming back. Oh, where else was he going? Well, listen, he is still a very good player that I believe had a very good chance of being drafted in the second round, even coming off a disappointing season. So that's one. But then two, I got a lot of, Torres, you told us when he came back last year that UConn was going to be a title contender. They weren't very good. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, well, listen, first of all, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think I'm right more than I'm wrong. But two, I think what's interesting about, Karaban next year versus Karaban this past year is I do think that you have to factor in the pieces that Dan Hurley is going to have around him. And I do expect a bounce back year. And I do very much expect for UConn to be back in the title mix again. By the way, thank you, producer Matt. Our Torres on UConn page is humming. If you're a UConn fan on Twitter, follow us, Torres on UConn. So in terms of why I think this is different, why I think this is big, and why I expect UConn to be better next year, to me, it's actually pretty straightforward, okay? So I just think UConn's going to be better across the board next year. Now, this past offseason, going into the 2024-2025 season, I think there were a lot of people in the media, myself included. I think we probably just kind of grandfathered UConn into the top 5, into the top 10, because we said Dan Hurley's coming off back-to-back national championships and doubting him feels really stupid. But I think it became evident pretty quick, Maui Invitational, et cetera, that the team was flawed, that it was not a perfect product on the floor, and that there were going to be deficiencies. From the beginning, you can go back to my tweets in Maui, and I said, they don't got that big guard, that lead guard that can make a difference, that can just make plays when things break down. Love Hassan Diarra. Love what he's about. Love what he did for the program. Okay, I actually was texting with Hassan the other day, and we had him on the show, and I wish him nothing but the best going forward. But at the same time, you look at Hassan, he was a guy that was playing through injury all year and was really probably best in the role that he played 2 seasons ago as a backup point guard to Tristan Newton. Well, Tristan Newton graduated this year. There was no real replacement. And part of the reason why I think UConn is going to be better next year is because they got a big guard coming in to play the lead guard position in that offense. Silas Demery from Georgia. This is a guy that when he entered the portal, everybody wanted. I know every fan base, oh, Torres, you're overhyping him, whatever. All I know is this. St. John's wanted him badly. BYU wanted him badly. Mark Pope flew to his home to have dinner with him on a Saturday night. I remember that story loud and clear, okay? He's from Carolina. I believe NC State made a push. I believe UNC at least made a few phone calls. So this was a kid everybody wanted. He is going to UConn. He is going to step into the lead guard position. And I'll say this, I think if you're a UConn fan, you have to be excited. Silas Demery has yet to play with Alex Karaban and was sending out tweets on Tuesday morning, welcoming him back, talking about how excited he is to play with him. So I think having that lead guard all of a sudden changes everything. And I think it allows the rest of the pieces to fall into place alongside Alex Karaban. In addition to Silas Demery, solo ball, as you can see on the screen, was the team's second leading scorer this year. Second team All-Big East as a true sophomore in his first year as a starter. He was not only one of the most improved players on UConn, he was one of the most improved players in the Big East and in all of college basketball this year. I forget, I think I tweeted it at some point, But Solo Ball is a guy that went from averaging 3 points per game as a freshman to 14.5 on 41% three-point shooting as a sophomore. All Big East second team. Now, listen, I think it's hard to imagine he makes a bigger leap than he did from freshman to sophomore year. But you go from second team All Big East to first team All Big East with a better point guard and more talent around you. All of a sudden, we're talking about a completely different team. By the way, Braylon Mullins, we talked about the fact off the top that 3 of the 4 guys that signed in the fall are coming to UConn. Darius Adams decommits. I think that's just how the world works. But Braylon Mullins is going to start and be a contributor, and I think be a big contributor this year. Dan Hurley's already come out and said he expects him to be a one and done. Well, if you're a one and done, it means that you're playing, that you're contributing, and that you're having success as a true freshman. And oh, by the way, outside of Karaban, you also have Torres Reed coming back, who I believe has a chance to be one of the most improved players in the Big East this year, and one of the most improved players nationally, this year. A guy that, quote unquote, averaged 9.5 points and 7.5 rebounds. But remember, it wasn't really until late in the year in which he really got comfortable. Was anybody else besides me watching when he had 24 and 18 in a win over Providence late in the year? Because, I was watching that one. How about 15 and 6 in the second game against St. John's? How about 13 and 9 in a win over Villanova? How about 12 and 7 in an NCAA tournament game against Oklahoma? And so I just bring it up because, again, you start talking about guys that were getting better as the season wore on. They're all coming back. You add Silas Demery, you add Braylon Mullins, you add 2 other freshmen, Furphy from Australia and Eric Ryby. And I'm here to by the way, Malachi Smith, transfer from Dayton. This is, I believe, a better constructed roster than last year. And now you're adding Alex Karaban back into that. To me, that is a very talented roster that has a chance to do very special things in 2025, 2026. I know whatever's, Torres, a year ago you said, no. It's a different year. I said a lot of things a year ago that don't apply now. What I'm telling you is UConn is better built. They are better constructed. And now they have Alex Karaban coming back. And I'm here to tell you, I think they're very much in that national championship picture. I actually re-released version 3 of my Way Too Early Top 25 on Tuesday morning. Maybe we discuss it on the next episode Thursday night or whenever we get a chance to discuss it. UConn's in my top 5. I don't want to spoil it, but I got Purdue up there. Purdue, of course, is bringing back 2 of the best players in the country, and Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Michigan, if Yaxel Lendenberg comes, I think is going to be good. And I got to say this. St. John's continues to pile up talent, but UConn is right in the mix with everybody. They're in the mix with BYU. They're in the mix with Kentucky. They're in the mix with whoever. Arkansas, doesn't really matter. I have UConn as a top 5 team, but I do think Karaban is the guy that pushes them over the top. And I think next year with the revamped roster, he is going to have a chance to thrive and have a chance to be better. So I am so excited about this. Ultimately, I think with the way the season went, with where his draft stock was, and with the way this process went, because I know we did talk about this probably 2 weeks ago when he was seen at the airport getting on the plane to Chicago. I think at first I expected him to go. Then as I think time went on, as we got through the weekend and he hadn't announced anything, I thought it'd be a little weird if he announced that he was going pro, kept the fan base waiting an extra 72 hours. Also, UConn wasn't really recruiting anybody else. So Alex Karaban is coming back, and I'm here to say when you add him in with the pieces that they already have, UConn very much a title contender. By the way, one other note at UConn. Mike Nardi in as an assistant coach. Mike Nardi, the former Villanova player, it was officially announced the same day as Alex Karaban that he's returning. Mike Nardi is in as an assistant coach. Why that stands out to me, I was at UConn when Mike Nardi played at Nova. Nova came in 2006 season. Nova and UConn were basically the 2 best teams in the country. UConn plays at Nova. I think it was about mid-February. UConn was the number 1 team in the country. They lose to Nova. They come back. They play UConn at Gampel Pavilion in February of 2006. I will tell you this. That was as loud as I have ever heard Gampel Pavilion, one of the best college games I've ever attended. UConn gets revenge. Now Mike Nardi, who was a key player on that team, shout out Alan Ray, shout out Randy Foy, shout out Mike Nardi. Kyle Lowry as well was on that team. Mike Nardi is officially a UConn assistant. That was announced on Tuesday. Tom Moore, the legend. I love Tom Moore. He is now UConn basketball's GM, going to handle most of the recruiting.